The power of noticing, just noticing what's going on inside you, is the bedrock of creating personal change. That seems really kind of out there and maybe really big. But if you think about it, it's really true. Every time you've ever made a change in your life, it's because you noticed that something needed to change first. And then you noticed every time that it was wrong. And then naturally, you started to build in different behaviors and patterns to change the thing that needed changed. But it starts with noticing. So what do we notice? Right? We know that we need to take the quiet time, the silence, the isolation as our playground for noticing. But what are we going to try to notice while we're there? There's a couple of big items that I generally recommend people start with. And the first is really just your thoughts. Most of us have what I call our inner roommate. It's that voice inside our head that sounds just like us. And we start by noticing what that voice is saying. And often, like we talked about in the workshop, there's a lot of stories going on up there around who you are, who you should be, what other people think of you. All of that stuff is churning in there. And so we start by noticing that, because when we notice it, it becomes a little more quiet. Why does it become more quiet? There's not a firm answer there, but the reason that I think it becomes more quiet is because when we notice something, we're building in the recognition that it isn't us. It's almost like saying that part of me over there is doing that, and I'm the one over here noticing. I'm the subject who observes an object, and that object is my thoughts. And that gives us a little space to actually not be those thoughts for just a moment. That's kind of a hard way to say it, but it might be helpful for some folks. So we notice our thoughts first. Then we notice our emotions, right? So if our thoughts include things like our behaviors and our judgments, a lot of times the emotions are what are underlying those thoughts. If we're judging somebody as having, cut us off in traffic and they're such an a-hole, we probably have some anger. We might have some fear about, almost getting into an accident. But noticing those emotions are underneath are really powerful, because emotions a lot of times drive our behaviors without us realizing it. And so when we notice our emotions, we get more control over our behaviors. And then for some of us, and there's a lot of us out there, and I count myself in there, it can be really useful just to also notice the automatic behaviors that we engage in. Even if it's just cracking our neck, or fidgeting, or whistling, or licking our lips, or itching our shoulder, or whatever it is, noticing those automatic behaviors can be really powerful too, because when we're not in control of our body, it's hard to be in control of our mind. And so it's this feedback loop where when we exert more awareness, we create more control. And more control leads to more awareness on other parts of ourselves, which leads to more control in other parts of ourselves. So wherever you feel it the loudest or see it the strongest, that's where you should probably start. But generally, I break it into those three categories, kind of our automatic behaviors, our emotions, and our thoughts. And we just sit and we notice. And whatever comes up for you is great. That's really hard for most of us to get to, and that's going to be a lot about what the next video is about, is accepting it. But just know that whatever you come up with, whatever you notice, even if it seems really stupid, is really great to notice, because you're noticing it, it's not you. And that starts to build enough space that you can create some really meaningful change. And that means you get to start to thrive in the quiet. So I look forward to talking to you in the next video, and I hope you have a really great week.